Thanks for tuning in to Rider Obvious again. I'm just heading on my way to a decent spot where I'm not around a bunch of houses and things, where I can take some shots of this beauty here and give you a review of the 2013 Kawasaki Concours 14.
I've had my 2013 Concours 14 for over a year now. I've actually racked up over 11,000 miles in that year. So the Concours 14, or as it's known in Europe, the GTR 1400, is based on the Hayabusa beating Kawasaki Ninja ZX14 sport bike. For those of you that don't know, this was the largest displacement sport bike that Kawasaki offered. Because of this, the Concours has a very sporty side. Max, that's what I call her, isn't just a ninja with higher handlebars. And mine has even higher handlebars thanks to these risers by Helibar. This motorcycle was designed with long-distance comfort in mind. The 2013 model has a stock windscreen that's higher than the previous revision that was done in 2008 and 2009. The 08 and 09 one was also based on the ZX14, but had a smaller windscreen. And actually the windscreen on both the 2008 all the way through the present day Concours have an electric controlled windscreen that moves up and down. In the summer, I almost never put the windscreen up because I like that breeze to keep me cool. And the air coming off of the windscreen when it's in the down position is very smooth. When the windscreen is up, it can buffet and be a bit choppy, but it does a great job at slowing the air down and, keeps an exposed bit of neck warmer. In the winter, I ride with the screen in the up position because it does keep me warmer. The heated grips are also a first for me on a motorcycle, and I will likely never have another motorcycle that does not have heated grips. The heat is adjustable with a knob on the left side of the inner fairing. This bike is equipped with a 1,352cc engine, rated to put out up to about 150 horsepower and 102 foot-pounds of torque at 6,600 RPMs, which actually, if you do the math, that's only like 120 horsepower. Anyway, not too worried about all of that. But this, coupled with the 6-speed transmission, will get your fairly heavy 688-pound bike up to speed very quickly. And to get it shut back down again, we have ABS and traction control. I know the purists of you out there that, you don't like or want either traction control or ABS, but I have to say that both have come in handy for me, reacting faster than I could in emergency situations. With the twin discs and the 8 pistons on the front brakes, all you have to do is think stop and it will. The traction control mellowed out my heavy throttle hand one evening on the highway. I gunned it, felt the back tire start to slide, and before I could react, the throttle was reduced and I was saved from high-siding Max in the middle of the highway as rush hour was subsiding. The key isn't necessarily a key as much as it is basically a stove knob. It has 4 positions: lock, off, run, and FSS. Don't get ahead of me, I didn't say FFS. It's FSS, which is short for fuel, saddlebags, and seat. The equipped saddlebags are spacious, large enough to hold any helmet I have, with my Sena 20S attached and my gloves and a sweatshirt. I've also added a plate to the back to accept the Givi, I don't know how you pronounce it, but the Monokey system bag. And with that storage, it's more than enough for a day trip with the wife, including even our picnic lunch. There's also a compartment on the left fairing right above the heated grip knob, large enough to keep all of my paperwork. Registration and insurance, please. A garage door opener, and a few other small items. The high beam control is actually a 3-position switch. You've got your low beam, which it's on normally, your high beam, and then if you push it down when it's on low beam, it'll flash so you can signal and say, please move. Thank you. Another thing that I really enjoy about this bike is the drive shaft instead of a chain. The drive shaft requires much less maintenance than a chain. I do have to change out the final drive oil every time I do an oil change, but compared to cleaning and oiling a chain every 300 to 500 miles, it's a dream. The drive shaft also contributes to a smoother ride. Kawasaki also designed this model to counteract drive shaft jacking effect with their Tetra-Lever Shaft Drive. You do have to feed this beast high-octane gasoline, and compared to my last bike, the NC700X, Max guzzles the gallons. I average about 35 to 40 miles per gallon, depending on where I ride and the road conditions. While we're talking about costs incurred by everyday riding, Max also eats tires. I think I mentioned my heavy throttle hand earlier, and because of that, I tend to go through tires a bit faster than the casual rider. I've had Michelin Road Pilot 4s, Road Pilot 3s, both of those on the bike, and they seem to wear about the same. But I do like the grip afforded by the Road Pilot 4 in wet conditions much more than the 3. My most recent set of tires, the ones that are on her now, are Dunlop Roadsmart 3s, and they seem to be wearing much better than the Michelins, at least for this first 500 miles. I do have to say, though, that they were slick out of the box, and it took a good 100 miles to wear off the slippery coating enough to give me confidence in the corners. I don't have a way to verify all of the specifications touted by the testers, 150 horsepower and 100 plus foot-pounds of torque, but I can vouch for every ounce of the 688 pounds, though. That'll come out in a different story. They're all impressive numbers, but I'm here to tell you about my experience with this bike. So what's it like to have a bike like this for over a year? I can say that every time I ride this beast, I have a grin on my face. It'll try to lift the front wheel off the ground just by twisting the throttle, and the traction control shuts that idea down in a heartbeat. It eats corners like the Cookie Monster in a Keebler factory. It's comfortable, and I think good looking. Kind of like myself, although I don't know how comfortable I am. Did I mention eating corners? It really gets back to its sport bike roots and the twisties. And once you're moving, you don't notice any of the weight of this heavy bike. It's extremely maneuverable. It's also a wide motorcycle, at least wider than any I've ridden before. But since I can't legally lane split, I can't really tell you how it handles that aspect. I know sport touring bikes aren't for everybody, but this is one bike that's met most of my needs and certainly met all of my expectations. The longest ride I've done on Max was about 300 miles. And in that day of riding with the stock seat, I was never uncomfortable. But I think any longer of a ride on it, I would have pushed that appraisal into the uncomfortable on my backside region. An aftermarket seat would surely eliminate that. I like the key pass system and haven't had any issues with it. The key pass is the fob that you keep in your pocket, and it allows you just don't have to fumble with keys. You turn the stove knob and go. I also appreciate the 12-volt power outlet that it has on the front. I use that to hook up my cell phone charger and my GPS power supply. Overall, it's been a great bike. I've got a year down and many adventures to go. I don't think I could have picked a better steed for the price, and I highly recommend this motorcycle to anybody looking to get a comfortable sport bike or a great tourer.